speaking of your resilience and all of this, I want to talk a little bit about the platform that you have created recently. Obviously, everyone knows as artists, we were kind of suddenly unemployed with the pandemic, at least from a performance perspective and concerts and all of that. And you took the opportunity to say, well, I have this gap, I have this void, I have time, and what can I do with it to make a difference? And you started the platform Latina Women in Opera. And so, for anybody who's listening, that is on Instagram, and that's at Latina Women in Opera. If you're not following it, you should follow it. Listen, I'm a white Midwestern farm girl, and I follow because it's just great content. It's really a lot of goodies on there. So I would love for you to share with us about this special platform that you created and how that came about.
Thank you for the question. We came from a group that had gotten together to do a concert for an organization called Raíces. Raíces is based in Texas, and actually they help lots of immigrants with legal aid. And as you know, during the last presidency, there was a zero tolerance law that meant that anyone who had come here illegally would be separated from families as a form of punishment.
Okay.
So children, babies were separated from their parents. Even if you're not a parent, I'm sure that just the thought of that makes you wanna it just hurts you inside of your stomach. Just thinking that my child is gonna be separated from me, it's terrible. And I wanted to help so that families would be reunited and that they would get the legal assistance. And this whole group of Latinos found themselves in Martina Arroyo here in New York. Martina is a legend, a legend singer of the 20th century. And we decided to do this concert, and we did it. Then from there, we did a concert for Venezuela too, and it was great. We were also helping an organization during that time. We were donating to other organizations and created also awareness about Venezuela. We educated about the humanitarian crisis and totalitarian dictatorship of Venezuela. And then from there, we saw ourselves in the pandemic, the girls that were actually keeping this going, because the guys were funny. And they know, there's no shade there, honestly. We were doing the work. We were the ones giving the posters and finding the places and getting the musicians. I was curating the concerts and giving posters and all of that. And so we were like, oh, we don't have a platform for Latinas in opera. And I told the girls, I was like, why is there not a platform for the Latino woman? We always show up, like we are there, we are doing the work. And they were like, oh my God, yeah. And then all the ideas started coming up, and we got it going. We got it on their feet. And my sister actually designed our first logo.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, we just started like little by little. And then from there, I had this idea. I was like, what if we have an interview system where we interview different people from the Latinx community? Well, it was first for women. We wanted to focus on the woman, and femme representing, non-binary. We were like, let's focus on that, but interviews to help with tools for performing and maybe like auditions, like how to get ready for an audition, like being very based on that, casting, what's going on in the times of COVID, what's, like a lot of the COVID situation shaping the platform so that all our girls and femme representing non-binary Latinx people were getting this information for free that usually costs like thousands of dollars, because you gotta book every time a coach for that, or so we were like, let's make it accessible, and we did it. And I been doing this now for 2 years. We've had great guests, Nadine Sierra, Isabel Leonard. We've had amazing guests. We've also had people from universities come, like Cristina Salgado, who is the director of diversity equity in the Juilliard School of Music, and we have Alexa Smith, who is from Manhattan School of Music, and I'll be interviewing in a few days. And
Great.
she's lovely, and we've had really, really fabulous people come to a platform. We had the cover of the Vogue magazine, Marisol, who is actually the sister of one of the girls of Orange is the New Black.
Oh,
She's yeah, she's a trans woman, and she wrote a book, and she had a really lovely talk in our platform, and we've had just a lot of growth and just bringing up a community that was like kind of like all spread out, and now we get like messages like from when in unfair situations happen in our companies, we're notified and we take action, and we try our best to help, to guide, to heal, to open up a community that is kind of like has a shared something that is not necessarily the truth, that because there is so much that difference in Latinidad, right? Like there's
absolutely.
so much variety and diversity in it.
Right.
But at the same time, there is a common thing that we are
Yes.
the countries that were colonized by Spain and Portugal, and we share that.
Mhm.
And through that, we unite. And there is like that, that sort of like situation.
Yes. And I
So
think,
that's Latino Women in Opera in a nutshell.
yeah, no, I think there's a couple of things to point out for people to understand that. One, right now you are a platform, you're not officially an organization, but working toward that goal. And with that said, everything that they see on your site is a labor of love. There isn't, you're not getting a salary to run Latino Women in Opera. You're not getting money to do these interviews. Any of this education is being gifted to people because you believe in it. And it really is remarkable when we stand back and think like, wow, before the pandemic, there really wasn't anything there for that community. And like you shared with me, I think last night, that even now, 2 years in, I think you're still one of the only
We are the only
platform.
platform for
Nobody.
Latinas, and actually Latinos too, and Latinx. Like
Mhm.
the other ones are dead; they don't exist anymore.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're the only ones that are still there, showing up every day
Yeah. And I
for
love
our
how you said it,
community.
showing up every day, and there isn't any money attached to that, just a belief that this needs to be in the world, and it's a beautiful thing. And I so appreciate that you do that, because that's right what I'm doing too. I'm not
Yes,
getting paid to interview you. You're not getting a dime for being here. You are gifting your time right now. People are getting a front row seat to your story. They're getting it for free, and you're donating your precious, precious time. And I hope people understand that, that these, Instagram has really changed things, and made things more accessible to people. And I hope people understand the free gift that they're given, because in times past, you would have had to have paid for a masterclass to go see this, to go hear this interview. And right now we're bringing this to you. You could be sitting with headphones on the subway right now and getting this for free. So it really is a labor of love. And I'm just so thrilled that you started it. Like I said, I love following it myself. So please go check out at Latina Women in Opera. You already have a wonderful following, but the more the merrier, right? Um, um, so one of the last things I would love to talk to you about is, as you know, the title of the show is If Only I Knew. And I warned you ahead of time about this question, because It's a big one. And I always love to ask each guest this one same question. And that is, if you could go back in time to 17 and 18-year-old Maria, and you could say, if only I had known this, right? So, what is the one thing, just the one thing? I'm sure you could share 10 or 20, but the one thing that you would love to share with young artists, young singers who are listening right now and saying, gosh, what is that one thing that I should probably know at my age that I don't know?
I think that I would tell myself that I'm enough where at the point where I am. And I think that I'm always going to come back to that throughout my whole life. Because it's easy to compare ourselves to others. It's easy to also see the things that we still have to improve, right? Like, I think if you have that mindset of constant growth, you will always see that you're not at the place where you want to be at.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you cannot celebrate yourself or what you are in that moment. Because
Mm.
if you have that mindset, that will also give you the joy, right? The release of probably dopamine or something like that to keep going. Kind of like that self-assurance of what you have done is good, that you can do more, but it's okay what you have. Especially for people who have to be on the stage, who have that sort of social pressure because you're speaking to someone, like people who speak in public. Why would you say to yourself mean, awful things right before you go on stage when you have to do something in front of people? That, first of all, won't make you performance better. They'll make you anxious, they'll close you off, they'll give you tension, they'll make you feel maybe nauseous. I don't know. You're going to feel things, and that won't let you do the best work that you can do. So, by acknowledging that what you had done leading to that moment of preparation is enough, and that you, at that moment of time, today, March, whatever, or January, or whatever day it is, da da da, I am enough and I'm ready to do this, and give your best performance in that moment. I think that that would be the best. And I know for myself that I did not do that, and I hurt myself constantly,
Mm.
physically, and like physically hated myself, physically and emotionally hated myself. I always thought that, everyone else was better, even though I was still fighting. I was just very mean to myself, and that's not useful. It really is not. And
Mm.
nowadays, I just still struggle with it, but I find ways to be like, girl, mm-mm, not today. Not today, Maria. Not now. Save it for later. Okay? Like, you talked me off. Like, why are you saying, like, oh, girl, but your runs, they tend to be sharp, like, whatever. Okay, well, don't be sharp then. Just keep going. It's time to focus on your performance.
Yeah. Mm. Well, we are our own worst critic, right? We talk about judges on the other side of the table, but the truth is, they're usually not the harshest person to us, right? It usually comes from within, and I think that's what you're saying. And I love what you mentioned about growth. And if some people have ever heard about the idea of growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Because if we can have a growth mindset, then we can be okay with where we are, because we know that where we are today is a beautiful place, and that tomorrow and the day after and the day after, we are going to be in a different place. We have to be, right? Because that's what growth is all about. If we believe in that, and not the fixed mindset, which can be a very dangerous place to be, you know. Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I know that you are, you know, a mental health advocate, if that's the right term for it. Do you have any tools that you would like to share with young artists that you recommend? First of all, for what you're saying, to be okay with where you are today, and kind of, yeah, what's in your tool bag?
I will give this like no specific order. Like
Sure.
you can, like I can kind of like go from one to the other. I think that first self-care, or the first thing that I want to mention is self-care. Because self-care is important for your well-being. If you're loving yourself, you're gonna give love to others. It's kind of like that airplane thing, like put the mask on you first and then put it on others, right? So find what works for you. If it is, for your body, and like, is it that self-care for you is drinking tea in the morning or having a warm bath at night, whatever you can afford. Obviously, always consider that this is in what I'm saying. I'm also considering equity. Like, not everyone has access to a warm bath. So your self-care might look different. Like, could be going to a concert in a park, or anything that is available and anything that you can afford for yourself. Meditation, and yoga, anything that is for the body too, because the body and the mind kind of like go together with self-care. So if it is that you like to have time that is quiet for yourself and just think, or just lay on the floor, it's free to lay on the floor or lay on the grass and just
Yes.
feel the sun. Those are things that are available to us that are important. Sometimes there are yoga classes that are for free. For example, here in New York, there are the parks that I think it's like a park program that has several classes, and especially in the summer, those are free and available for people. And I'm sure that now with COVID, they have opened up again. So there are free resources that we can use to find what works for us. And what works for you might be different than what works for me. For me, sometimes just being with my family and not having to practice
Mhm.
or not having to do anything else means self-care. And that's okay for me. And that's what makes sense for me. But maybe for others, that wouldn't be so relaxing. But, find what works for you. And number three, I would say, with self-care and body and mind,
Yes.
is a mental health specialist. I'm not a mental health specialist, so everything I say, take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes people need the help.
Yes.
And I also consider equity in this, because sometimes you cannot afford someone. I know that in New York, there are certain lines that will give you some sort of therapy, because everyone will need someone to talk to, someone that can guide us. I have myself a therapist, and I'm so grateful that I can have a therapist, because it's been a change for me. You need to find the right fit for you, someone who works for you, and don't feel like you need therapy only if you're in a crisis. Sometimes you don't know that you're in a crisis, you're in a quiet crisis, and that will affect whatever you're doing. It will affect your singing, it will affect your relationships. So it's okay to get help from someone else. And there are trained specialists who literally went to school for this. Just like we're going to school, or you were planning to go to school for singing, there are people your age right now who are planning to go to school to help others live a happier, more balanced life. So give yourself that opportunity if you can. And I consider that, obviously, it's can be a luxury because not everyone has insurance.
Yes.
But if you can find a way to get a therapist for free, go ahead and
Yes.
do it.
And I think what I might do is there are some resources, at least here in New York City. I can't speak right for people watching from, we do have people that watch this from all over the place. But there are, it's particularly in the US, I should say, and particularly if you're in a large city, there are free programs. You usually have to submit, proof of financial need. But if you are able to do that, there are free programs. So that is absolutely something worth looking into. Don't think, well, I don't have the money, therefore I can't get this. It's very likely that you can. And so I wholeheartedly agree with you on that recommendation. That's really wonderful advice. And one more thing I would love to ask you before we end our time together. Obviously, at the top of the program, you shared about your personal journey from Caracas to New York, and it's a beautiful story, albeit difficult circumstances. And for those watching who might not know, your mom and dad, they are still in Caracas, and
I brought them.
they're here.
Yeah, I brought my parents.
I didn't know that, Maria. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
But
Okay.
they were when we were pre-pandemic. I brought them last year.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I didn't know that. Oh my goodness. Well, because they were there for basically 10 years after you came over here. So for 10 years you were supporting them over there and keeping things afloat. But for those who are watching, who are sitting here and going, wow, that's really great, Maria. I have, their story probably looks very different than yours, but it's a story of adversity. It's a story of overcoming challenges, and they're sitting there and they're frustrated and they're going, gosh, but Maria, you don't understand. I'm having to deal with this or this or this, right? It's we all have challenges, no matter where we come from. We all have a different degree of challenges that we all face. This is, the world is a broken place, and therefore, a world of brokenness. We all have challenges. What is something that you could say to that young woman who is watching right now and saying, but Maria, you don't understand? What would you say to her?
I would say, you might be right. I don't understand what you're going through because your situation is different than mine, and I have empathy and compassion for you. Because I think that's important. And I would ask them if they do have empathy and compassion for themselves, and what is it that is troubling you really in this situation that you're going through. Is it the financial hardship? Is it that it's very hard for you to get your technique together and you don't find the right fit? Like, it's kind of like finding the way to find answers for yourself too. Like, I think that we have to bring power to what we do, because I understand sometimes certain situations seem like there is nothing I can do. And it's okay to be upset, go through the process, kind of like grieve through it. We like, well, I'm upset and there's nothing I can do. And then after that, find the solutions for your problems. You got to be, kind of like a solution maker. And that's actually something I learned in therapy too. That I kind of like was doing before, but I didn't know how it was. Like, in therapy, if you notice, if you bring a problem, you're going to try to solve it. You got to try to solve it. Or if it is something that you cannot change, how can you live with it happily, right? Like, if you don't do certain things, right? You don't do whatever. You don't go to the school, Maria, you don't understand. I did not get into Juilliard. Is really that going to be the end of the world? Is that something you can change, or you cannot change that? And then you have to just continue living with your life. So I would say that, again, tapping into that emotional health well-being is very important for this career, because you're going to find more than often that there will be things that you cannot change, and that you will say, Maria, you cannot understand. And I will say, well, maybe I can, because at the time I couldn't understand, or I still don't understand. But how do I still live with this? And it goes back to purpose. You have to have a purpose while you're here. And you have to be kind to yourself so that you can get through that growth, so that nothing will stop you. And your story is yours.
Yes.
And you're not stopping you will look like whatever you are, right? And that's okay.
Yeah. thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your journey. We are so excited to continue to watch your career unfold. It's just so exciting to watch. Once again, check out at Latina Women in Opera. Go check out what they are doing over there, as well as, is it at Maria Brea? Is that where we can
Yeah,
find
at Maria Brea Soprano. Yeah.
Soprano? Okay, fantastic. Please go check her out over there and follow her amazing journey. And thank you everyone for watching with us today. And as always, keep dreaming, keep practicing, and keep sharing your music with the world.